I'm Amber Wilson, 34, and my son Logan has cerebral palsy. For years, my sister-in-law Stephanie has made subtle digs about his disability, but I never imagined she'd deliberately put him in danger. When she invited him for a fun day out with his cousins, I hesitated but wanted to believe she was trying to connect with him. Instead, her idea of fun sent my 12-year-old to the hospital. Before I tell you how my sister-in-law's prank landed my son in the hospital, please let me know where you're watching from and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about standing up for those who can't defend themselves. My life changed forever 9 years ago when my husband Brian died in a car accident. Logan was only 3 then, and I became a widow raising a child with special needs all alone. We'd received Logan's cerebral palsy diagnosis just a year before Brian's death, when Logan was 2. His condition primarily affects his mobility. He uses leg braces and sometimes a wheelchair for longer distances, but his mind is sharp as a tack. He's brilliant, funny, and has this ability to light up a room with his smile. Before Stephanie entered our lives, my brother Doug and I were incredibly close. Growing up, he was my protector, my confidant. After Brian died, Doug was my rock. He'd come over several times a week, play with Logan, help around the house, and just be there when I needed to break down. Logan adored his Uncle Doug, and their bond was something special. Then Doug met Stephanie at a company picnic. Initially, she seemed nice enough, polite, engaging, asked questions about Logan. I was happy for my brother. After they got married, though, things began to change. The first red flag appeared during Thanksgiving dinner about 4 years ago. Logan was having trouble cutting his turkey. Instead of offering to help, Stephanie loudly remarked, "Shouldn't he be able to do that by now? My friend's son is younger and can use utensils perfectly." The table went quiet. Doug changed the subject, but the damage was done. I saw the hurt in Logan's eyes. Over time, these observations increased. She'd comment on his slowness when we'd all go somewhere together, sighing dramatically if we needed to wait for him. Once, she suggested I should consider places that specialize in kids like Logan because it would give me my life back. I was horrified, but Doug just sat there, saying nothing. Stephanie has 2 children from a previous relationship, Jessica, who's 14, and Tyler, who's 10. Jessica is a wonderful girl who's always been kind to Logan. She helps him without making a big deal about it and genuinely enjoys his company. Tyler seems torn, sometimes playing happily with Logan, other times mimicking his mother's impatience. As Stephanie's influence grew, Doug became increasingly distant. Our weekly visits dwindled to monthly, then to major holidays only. When I tried to talk to him about Stephanie's behavior, he'd dismiss it with, "She doesn't mean anything by it," or "You're being too sensitive." Family gatherings became a minefield. Stephanie would plan activities Logan couldn't participate in, then act surprised. "Oh, I didn't realize Logan couldn't do that." She'd invite everyone except Logan and me to impromptu family outings, claiming she didn't want to inconvenience us. Each slight was carefully constructed to seem innocent while sending a clear message. Logan didn't fit into her ideal family picture. Despite all this, I tried to maintain peace. Logan loved his cousins, especially Jessica, and I didn't want to deprive him of family connections. I'd bite my tongue, make accommodations, and focus on creating positive experiences for Logan within these constraints. So when Stephanie called last month with an invitation for Logan to join her and the kids for a fun day out at Adventure Kingdom, the new amusement park, I was skeptical. It seemed out of character for her to want to spend time with Logan. "It'll be good for him to get out with his cousins," she said. "Jessica's been asking to take him." Part of me wanted to decline immediately. Another part, the part that always hoped for better, wondered if this was an olive branch, a genuine attempt to improve our relationship. "I don't know, Stephanie," I said. "Adventure Kingdom is pretty intense for Logan. There are a lot of things he can't do there." "We'll stick to the tamer rides," she promised. Besides, he shouldn't miss out just because of his condition. That would be discrimination, wouldn't it? She'd found my weakness, my desire for Logan to experience as normal a childhood as possible. When she added that Doug thought it was a good idea too, I reluctantly agreed. Looking back, I should have trusted my instincts. But hope is a powerful thing, especially when it comes to family. I wanted so badly to believe that Stephanie was finally seeing Logan as a person worthy of inclusion rather than a burden to be tolerated. That decision to trust her would become my greatest regret. The moment I told Logan about the invitation, his face lit up like a Christmas tree. Really? With Jessica and Tyler? He asked, his eyes wide with excitement. Yes, sweetheart. Aunt Stephanie is taking you all to Adventure Kingdom this Saturday, I confirmed, my heart warming at his joy, while my stomach knotted with apprehension. Logan rarely got opportunities for outings without me. Most of his activities were either with me or in structured programs specifically designed for children with disabilities. The chance to spend a day just being a kid with his cousins meant the world to him. Do you think I can try the water rides? He asked, already planning his adventure. We'll need to talk with Aunt Stephanie about which rides are safe for you, I said carefully. Remember, some rides might be too intense. That week, Logan researched Adventure Kingdom online, making lists of attractions he thought he could handle. Jessica called twice to discuss their plans, her enthusiasm matching Logan's. Even Tyler got on the phone once to tell Logan about the giant ice cream sundaes they served there. Meanwhile, I was meticulously preparing. I created a detailed medical information sheet with Logan's diagnosis, medications, potential complications, and emergency contacts. I listed specific activities to avoid: high-intensity roller coasters, rides with sudden drops or inversions, and anything that strapped him in tightly around the chest, which could trigger muscle spasms. The day before the outing, I called Stephanie to go over everything. Logan needs to take his muscle relaxant at noon, I explained. He has it in his backpack with instructions. If his legs start to spasm, have him sit down immediately and help him with the stretching exercises he'll show you. Amber, relax, Stephanie interrupted. I've raised 2 kids. I know how to handle children. Logan isn't just any child, I insisted. His cerebral palsy means. I know what cerebral palsy is, she cut in again. Don't be so overprotective. He'll be fine. Just promise me you'll follow the guidelines for rides, I pressed. Nothing with sudden drops or that goes upside down. His body can't handle that kind of stress. Yes, she said dismissively. We'll stick to the kiddie rides if that makes you feel better. Later that evening, Doug called. Steph told me you're worried about tomorrow, he said. Of course I'm worried. Stephanie doesn't seem to be taking Logan's medical needs seriously. She's really trying to connect with Logan, Doug insisted. This was her idea, you know. She wants to show him he's part of the family. I hope that's true, I said, not entirely convinced. It is, he assured me. Just trust her a little, okay? It'll be good for Logan to have some independence. Those words struck a chord. Logan was growing up, and I'd been struggling with giving him appropriate independence. Maybe my brother was right. Maybe I was being overprotective. Saturday morning arrived with Logan up at dawn, too excited to sleep. He'd laid out his clothes the night before, his favorite Captain America t-shirt, and the special lightweight shorts that fit comfortably over his leg braces. How long until Aunt Stephanie gets here? He asked for the 3rd time as I helped him with his braces. About an hour, I answered, adjusting the straps. Remember what we talked about? If you get tired or uncomfortable. I know, Mom, he said with the exasperated tone only preteens can perfect. Tell Aunt Stephanie right away. And take my medicine at noon. I smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind his ear. That's right. And you have my number memorized? 555-2381, he recited dutifully. Mom, I'll be okay. Jessica will help me if I need anything. His confidence both warmed and worried me. Logan had faced so many challenges in his young life, yet he remained optimistic, always believing the best of people, including his Aunt Stephanie. When her SUV pulled into our driveway at 9:15, Logan was waiting by the window. "They're here," he announced, grabbing his backpack and making his way to the door with his distinctive gait. Stephanie honked impatiently instead of coming to the door. Jessica waved enthusiastically from the passenger seat while Tyler bounced in the back. I helped Logan down the porch steps, noting how Stephanie watched us in the rearview mirror, her expression unreadable. "Remember, no intense rides," I said to Stephanie through her open window after helping Logan into the back seat. "We've been over this 1,000 times," she replied, checking her watch. "We need to get going if we want to beat the crowds." I handed her the folder with Logan's medical information. "Please read this before you get there. And call me if anything seems off. Anything at all." "He'll be fine," she said, tucking the folder into her purse without looking at it. "We'll have him back by 6. I'll keep an eye on him, Aunt Amber," Jessica promised from the passenger seat, her sincerity providing my only real comfort. As they backed out of the driveway, Logan gave me a brave smile and a thumbs up. I waved until they turned the corner, then stood in the empty driveway, fighting the urge to call the whole thing off. Throughout the morning, I tried to distract myself with work. I'm a graphic designer and had a project deadline approaching, but found myself checking my phone every few minutes. Stephanie sent a few texts early on. 10:30 a.m. Arrived. Lines not too bad. 11:15 a.m. Logan rode the carousel. Having fun. 12:08 p.m. Lunch at Burger Place. All good. After that, the updates became vaguer and less frequent. 1:45 p.m. Still at park. Everyone having fun. 3:20 p.m. All fine. Battery low. We'll update later. By mid-afternoon, my unease had grown into genuine worry. I called Stephanie twice, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted Jessica, but got no response. Even Tyler, who sometimes answered texts, was silent. I told myself I was overreacting. Phone batteries die. Reception in amusement parks can be spotty. They were probably just having too much fun to check their phones. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Call it mother's intuition or just years of being hypervigilant about Logan's safety, but a knot had formed in my stomach that wouldn't go away. At 4:27 p.m., my phone finally rang. I lunged for it, relieved to see Jessica's name on the screen. That relief lasted exactly 3 seconds. "Aunt Amber?" Jessica's voice was high-pitched and trembling. "Something happened to Logan." My blood turned to ice. "What happened?" "Put your mother on the phone." "I can't," she whispered. "Mom doesn't know I'm calling." She took our phones, but I snuck mine back. "Jessica, tell me what happened to Logan. Right now." I heard her take a shaky breath. "We went on the Thunderbolt." The Thunderbolt. Adventure Kingdom's newest roller coaster. Known for its 3 inversions and 90-foot drop. "The roller coaster?" I managed to ask, my voice strangely calm even as panic exploded in my chest. "The one with loops and drops?" "Yes," Jessica's voice broke. "Mom said it would be fine, that Logan needed to overcome his fears." "Logan kept saying no, that you said he couldn't go on rides like that, but Mom said he was being dramatic." "Where's Logan now?" I demanded, already grabbing my car keys. "In the first aid station. He passed out after the ride. He was dizzy and then he just collapsed." Her voice dropped even lower. "He won't wake up, Aunt Amber. The park medic is with him, but Mom won't let them call an ambulance. She says he's just overwhelmed and making a scene." "Put the medic on the phone right now, Jessica." "I can't. I'm hiding in the bathroom. Mom said not to call you, that Logan was fine and she'd handle it. But he's not fine, Aunt Amber." His face looked all wrong and he made weird noises before he passed out. My training from Logan's previous medical emergencies kicked in. "Jessica, listen carefully. Go back to the first aid station. Tell the medic I'm Logan's mother and I'm authorizing emergency medical transport. Tell them Logan has cerebral palsy and may be experiencing autonomic dysreflexia. Got that? Autonomic dysreflexia, she repeated. Good girl. Then tell them I'm on my way and calling 911 myself. If your mother tries to stop them, tell the medic to call park security. Okay, Jessica whispered. Please hurry. I'm scared. You're doing great, Jessica. I'll be there as fast as I can. The moment we hung up, I called 911, explaining the emergency as I ran to my car. The dispatcher connected me with paramedics heading to the park, and I relayed Logan's medical history as I drove, probably breaking several traffic laws in the process. I tried calling Doug repeatedly but got no answer. I left increasingly frantic voicemails. Doug, it's an emergency. Call me back. Logan's hurt at the park. Stephanie put him on a roller coaster. I'm heading to Adventure Kingdom. Logan's unconscious. Where are you? The 20-minute drive to Adventure Kingdom was the longest of my life. I parked illegally near the entrance, flashed my annual pass at the ticket scanner, and sprinted through the crowds toward the first aid station, ignoring the pain in my hip from an old injury. When I burst through the door, the scene before me stopped me cold. Logan lay motionless on a cot, his face ashen, a park medic checking his vital signs. Jessica sat beside him, holding his hand, tears streaming down her face. Tyler stood in the corner, looking confused and frightened. And Stephanie was arguing with another medic. He's just seeking attention, I heard her say dismissively. He does this sort of thing all the time. His mother coddles him. Ma'am, his vital signs indicate. I'm his aunt. I know what's best for him right now, and creating a big scene with ambulances isn't it. What have you done to my son? The words tore from my throat as I pushed past her to Logan's side. Stephanie whirled around, her expression shifting from annoyed to defensive. Amber, thank goodness you're here. Logan's having one of his episodes. The ride was too much excitement for him. Episodes? I echoed incredulously, checking Logan's pulse myself. It was racing, his skin clammy. He's never had an episode in his life. You put him on a roller coaster after I specifically told you not to. He wanted to go, Stephanie insisted. He was just nervous, like any kid. I thought he'd enjoy it once he tried it. Jessica stood up, her hands clenched. That's not true, Mom. Logan kept saying no. He was crying. You told him to stop being a baby. Stephanie's face hardened. Jessica, that's enough. Go wait with Tyler. No, Jessica stood her ground. Logan told you and Amber said he couldn't go on those rides. He showed you the list. You said Amber was overprotective and Logan needed to learn to be normal. The medic interrupted. Ma'am, your son is showing signs of autonomic dysreflexia, a dangerous condition that can occur when someone with cerebral palsy experiences extreme stress or overstimulation. The paramedics are entering the park now. He's not her son, Stephanie snapped. I'm responsible for him today, and this is getting blown way out of proportion. I turned to her, fury burning through my fear. You deliberately put my son on a ride that could kill him. After I gave you specific instructions. After he himself told you no. This isn't overprotective, Stephanie. This is life or death. As if on cue, the paramedics arrived, quickly assessing Logan and transferring him to a stretcher. One asked me about his medical history as the other took his vital signs. Has this happened before? The paramedic asked. No, I said, holding Logan's limp hand as they prepared to move him. He's had muscle spasms, but never lost consciousness like this. Mom. Logan's eyes fluttered open briefly, his voice barely audible. I'm here, baby, I assured him, squeezing his hand. You're going to be okay. His eyes closed again as the paramedics lifted the stretcher. I'm riding with him, I told them, then turned to Jessica. Thank you for calling me. You may have saved his life. Jessica nodded, wiping away tears. I'm sorry, and Amber. I should have stopped her. This isn't your fault, I said firmly, then looked at Stephanie. It's hers, and she's going to be held accountable. As the paramedics wheeled Logan out, I heard Stephanie's stunned voice behind me. You can't blame me for this. It was just supposed to be fun. How was I supposed to know he'd react like that? I didn't bother responding. My focus was entirely on Logan as we made our way through the park, curious onlookers stepping aside for the emergency crew. In the ambulance, I held Logan's hand while the paramedics worked, attaching monitors and starting in 4. When one asked about the incident, I explained what had happened as calmly as I could. His aunt took him on the Thunderbolt roller coaster despite explicit instructions not to. He has cerebral palsy and can't handle that kind of physical stress. The paramedic exchanged a look with his partner. Ma'am, we're required to report suspected child endangerment. I hadn't even considered that aspect yet, but as soon as he said it, I knew. Yes, I said firmly. Please do. This wasn't an accident. She deliberately ignored medical advice and put him at risk. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, my fear for Logan mixed with a new, cold determination. Stephanie had crossed a line today that couldn't be uncrossed. And she was about to learn there were consequences for treating my son like a prop in her twisted idea of family inclusion. The hospital emergency room was a blur of activity as doctors and nurses swarmed around Logan. I answered questions on autopilot, medical history, medications, allergies, while keeping my eyes fixed on my son's pale face. We're seeing signs of autonomic dysreflexia, the ER doctor confirmed after their initial assessment. It's a potentially dangerous condition where the autonomic nervous system overreacts to a painful or stressful stimulus. In Logan's case, the extreme stress of the roller coaster likely triggered it. Is he going to be okay? I asked, my voice barely steady. We're giving him medications to lower his blood pressure and reduce the neurological response, she explained. His vitals are already improving, but we'll need to monitor him closely for the next 24 hours. As they stabilized Logan, a hospital social worker approached with 2 police officers. They introduced themselves and explained they needed to take statements about the incident. The paramedics reported this as a possible child endangerment situation. Officer Garrett, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, explained. Can you tell us what happened? I recounted everything, the explicit instructions I'd given Stephanie, the list of prohibited activities, Logan's own refusal to go on the ride, and Stephanie's dismissal of his medical needs. I have the medical information sheet I gave her, I said, showing them a copy on my phone. It clearly states no high-intensity rides, especially ones with drops or inversions. Officer Garrett took notes while her partner, Officer Thomas, asked clarifying questions. And you believe your sister-in-law deliberately disregarded these instructions? He asked. Absolutely, I said without hesitation. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Logan and Jessica both say he protested and showed Stephanie the list. She called him dramatic and forced him to go anyway. As we were talking, commotion erupted in the hallway. Stephanie had arrived with Tyler, and Jessica was trailing behind them, looking miserable. I need to see my nephew, Stephanie demanded at the nurse's station. I'm family. When she spotted me with the police officers, she faltered for a moment, then put on a concerned expression. Amber, how is he? The park medic was overreacting, right? Mrs. Wilson, Officer Garrett interrupted. We'd like to speak with you about the incident at Adventure Kingdom. Stephanie's eyes widened as she registered the police presence. Police? That's ridiculous. It was just a ride at an amusement park. A ride that could have killed my son, I said, my voice shaking with rage. A ride I explicitly told you he couldn't go on. You're pressing charges? Stephanie looked genuinely shocked. Over a misunderstanding? It was just a prank, Amber. I thought he'd enjoy it once he tried it. A prank? I repeated incredulously. Logan is unconscious. The doctors say he could have died. Jessica stepped forward, visibly trembling but determined. Mom, you knew Aunt Amber said no roller coasters. Logan showed you the paper. He was crying and begging not to go. Stephanie rounded on her daughter. Jessica, be quiet. You don't understand adult situations. Mrs. Wilson, Officer Thomas interjected, we need your statement about what happened. Please come with us. As they led Stephanie to a private area, Doug finally arrived, looking bewildered and anxious. Amber, what happened? I got your messages. Is Logan okay? No thanks to your wife, I said coldly. She forced Logan onto the Thunderbolt roller coaster. He lost consciousness and is now being treated for autonomic dysreflexia. Doug's face drained of color. The Thunderbolt? But that has loops and drops. Exactly. Something I explicitly told her to avoid. Something Logan begged her not to make him do. Doug looked torn, glancing between me and the room where Stephanie was being interviewed. I'm sure she didn't understand how serious it was. Don't, I warned. Don't you dare defend her. She knew exactly what she was doing. Jessica confirmed it. Jessica? Doug looked at his daughter, who nodded, tears streaming down her face. Mom said Logan needed to learn to be normal, Jessica said quietly. When he got scared in line, she said he was embarrassing her and needed to man up. Doug closed his eyes briefly. Where is Logan? Can I see him? The doctors are with him, I said. And no, you can't see him right now. I don't know if I can trust you around him anymore, Doug. He's my nephew, Doug protested. And he's my son, I countered. A son your wife deliberately put in danger. You need to decide right now who you're going to protect, Logan or Stephanie. At that moment, a doctor emerged from Logan's room. He's awake and asking for you, Ms. Wilson. I turned away from Doug without another word and went to my son. Logan looked small and fragile in the hospital bed, hooked up to monitors and in 4. His eyes were half open, unfocused. Mom, he whispered when I took his hand. I'm here, sweetheart, I assured him, smoothing his hair back. You're going to be okay. I told Aunt Stephanie I couldn't go on the ride, he said, his voice breaking. I showed her the paper like you said. But she said I was being a baby. I know, honey. You did everything right. This wasn't your fault. His eyes filled with tears. It was so scary, Mom. Everything went dark and spinny, and then I couldn't breathe right. I held him as he cried, fury building inside me with each sob that shook his thin frame. When he'd calmed down, I stepped outside to find Officer Garrett waiting for me. We've taken statements from your sister-in-law, your niece, and the park employees, she informed me. There's enough evidence to support charges of reckless endangerment of a child. I want to press charges, I said without hesitation. She knew exactly what she was doing. Are you sure? Family cases are always complicated. I've never been more sure of anything, I replied. She deliberately put my son at risk after being explicitly warned not to. If Jessica hadn't called me against her mother's wishes, who knows what could have happened? Officer Garrett nodded. We'll be in touch about next steps. A detective will follow up with you tomorrow. As she walked away, I saw Stephanie sitting in the waiting area, her face in her hands. Doug stood nearby, looking lost. Stephanie looked up as I approached. Amber, please, she began. It was a stupid mistake. I never meant to hurt Logan. Save it, I cut her off. You've been undermining and belittling Logan for years. Today, you crossed the line into actively endangering him. I'm pressing charges, Stephanie. You're not going to brush this under the rug. You can't be serious, she exclaimed. It would destroy our family. You destroyed our family when you decided my son's medical needs were inconvenient to your narrative, I replied coldly. You're not welcome near Logan again. Doug stepped forward. Amber, there has to be another way. Stephanie made a terrible mistake, but... A mistake? I interrupted. A mistake is taking a wrong turn. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. Deliberately forcing a disabled child onto a dangerous ride after being explicitly told not to is not a mistake. It's a choice. I turned to Jessica, who stood silently nearby. Thank you for being brave enough to call me. You saved Logan from an even worse outcome. Stephanie glared at her daughter. So this is your fault? After everything I've done for you. Jessica flinched, but stood her ground. You were wrong, Mom. Logan could have died. Tyler, who had been quiet throughout the confrontation, suddenly spoke up. Is Logan going to be okay? The innocent concern in his voice momentarily softened my anger. Yes, Tyler. The doctors are taking good care of him. Can I see him? He asked uncertainly. Not today, I said gently. He needs to rest. But I'll let him know you asked about him. As I turned to go back to Logan's room, Doug caught my arm. What happens now? I looked at my brother, the person who had once been my strongest supporter, who had gradually become a stranger under Stephanie's influence. Now you make a choice, I told him. Because I've made mine. Logan comes first. Always. Logan was admitted for overnight observation, his room quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. I sat beside his bed, working remotely on my laptop during the brief periods he slept. During his waking hours, we played gentle card games and watched his favorite superhero movies on the room's small TV. Mom, he asked during a quiet moment, is Aunt Stephanie going to jail? The question caught me off guard. I don't know, sweetheart. The police are investigating what happened. I don't want her to go to jail, he said softly. I just don't want to go on any more rides with her. His innate kindness, even after what he'd been through, made my heart ache. You won't have to, I promised. You won't have to see Aunt Stephanie for a long time. What about Uncle Doug? And Jessica and Tyler? I chose my words carefully. Uncle Doug needs to make some decisions. Jessica and Tyler aren't at fault for what their mother did. We'll figure it out. Shortly after this conversation, a light knock at the door announced the arrival of my parents. They had driven 3 hours after receiving my call about the incident. Oh, my sweet boy, my mother gasped, rushing to Logan's bedside. My father followed, his normally jovial face set in grim lines. I'm okay, Grandma, Logan assured her, submitting to her gentle hugs and kisses. My father pulled me into the hallway. What exactly happened? Your message was garbled. I explained the situation, watching his face darken with each detail. Where is Doug now? He demanded when I finished. I don't know. Probably with Stephanie. And Stephanie? The last I heard, she was released pending further investigation. My father ran a hand over his face. I always thought she was cold, but this is criminal. The police seem to think so too. Good, he said firmly. Some lines can't be uncrossed, Amber. This is one of them. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Can I visit Logan? Just me. After checking with Logan, who brightened at the prospect of seeing his cousin, I agreed. 20 minutes later, a hospital volunteer escorted Jessica to Logan's room. Jessica looked like she hadn't slept, her eyes red-rimmed, her usual confident posture diminished. She hesitated at the doorway until Logan called her name. Hey, Dork, she said with forced lightness, using their familiar nickname for each other. You scared me yesterday. Sorry, Logan replied with a small smile. Not my idea. Jessica perched on the edge of his bed, carefully avoiding the foreline. I brought you something. She pulled a small Captain America action figure from her pocket. From my collection. Thought he could stand guard while you sleep. Logan accepted the figure with reverence. Thanks, Jess. While Logan showed his grandparents the action figure's features, Jessica pulled me aside. Dad and Mom are fighting nonstop, she whispered. Dad stayed at a hotel last night. He's really mad at Mom. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this, I told her. She shook her head. Don't be sorry. What Mom did was wrong. Really wrong. I should have stopped her somehow. Jessica, you're 14. It wasn't your responsibility to stop your mother. You did the right thing by calling me. Mom took my phone away for that, she admitted. Dad gave it back this morning and said I was brave. This small sign that my brother might be finding his backbone gave me a flicker of hope. Throughout the day, hospital staff came and went, checking Logan's vitals and adjusting his medications. The neurologist explained that while Logan's immediate symptoms were improving, we needed to watch for potential after effects. The extreme stress on his system could trigger increased muscle tone or spasms in the coming weeks, she warned. He'll need follow-up appointments and possibly adjustments to his physical therapy regimen. Late that afternoon, Doug arrived alone, looking haggard. My father intercepted him in the hallway, their hushed but intense conversation visible through the room's small window. Eventually, my father nodded and let Doug enter. "Hey, champ," Doug said to Logan, his voice overly bright. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Logan replied cautiously. "The doctor says I can go home tomorrow if my blood pressure stays normal." "That's great news," Doug said, then looked at me. "Could we talk?" "Just for a minute." In the hallway, Doug seemed to deflate. "Amber, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry about what happened." "Sorry doesn't cut it, Doug. Your wife could have killed my son." "I know," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've been blind for too long. The things Jessica told me, the way Stephanie's been treating Logan. I had no idea it was that bad. Because you chose not to see it, I pointed out. I tried to tell you." "You're right," he admitted. "I didn't want to believe my wife could be that cruel. But after yesterday, after seeing the park security footage." "Security footage?" Doug nodded grimly. "The police obtained it this morning. It shows everything: Logan crying and trying to get away, Stephanie physically pulling him onto the ride attendant questioning if Logan should be on it, Stephanie insisting he was fine." He broke off, voice cracking. "I can't defend her anymore, Amber. I just can't." "So what now?" I asked. "I've asked Stephanie to move out for now. I need space to think about what's best for the kids." It was more than I'd expected from my conflict-avoidant brother. "That's a start," I acknowledged. "Can I see Logan? Really see him? Not just pretend everything's normal?" I studied my brother's face, seeing genuine remorse. Briefly, he's still processing all this. When we returned to the room, my parents were helping Logan with his dinner tray. They acknowledged Doug with cool nods. Logan looked up warily as his uncle approached. "Hi, Uncle Doug." Doug sat carefully on the edge of the bed. "Logan, I need to tell you something important. What your Aunt Stephanie did was wrong. Very wrong. And I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you." Logan fidgeted with his fork. "It's okay." "No, it's not okay," Doug insisted gently. "Adults are supposed to keep kids safe, especially family. We let you down. I let you down. And I promise I'm going to do better." Logan seemed to consider this, then asked the question that had clearly been bothering him. "Are you mad at me for getting Aunt Stephanie in trouble?" Doug's face crumpled. "Oh, buddy, no. Not at all. Aunt Stephanie got herself in trouble by making dangerous choices. None of this is your fault." For the first time since the incident, Logan's shoulders relaxed slightly. That evening, after Doug left and my parents went to their hotel, Jessica texted again. "Mom's posting stuff online about Logan." I immediately checked Stephanie's social media accounts and felt sick. She had posted a long, self-pitying rant about being persecuted for trying to give a disabled child a normal experience, and how some people would rather keep their children in bubble wrap than let them live. The post included past photos of Logan, using him as a prop in her narrative of martyrdom. I took screenshots for the police, then blocked her on all platforms. Several of our mutual acquaintances messaged me, asking about the situation. Word was spreading through our community. The detective assigned to Logan's case called to schedule a formal interview the following day. He mentioned they were gathering evidence, including witness statements from park employees and other riders. "The security footage is quite damning," he confirmed. "Several witnesses heard your son protesting and your sister-in-law dismissing his concerns." That night, as Logan finally drifted off to sleep, I allowed myself a moment of vulnerability, silently crying in the uncomfortable hospital chair. The beeping monitors, the antiseptic smell, the harsh fluorescent lights, all brought back memories of Logan's earlier hospital stays during the worst periods of his condition. Stays where Brian had been by my side, where we'd faced challenges together. I'm doing my best, Brian, I whispered to my late husband's memory. I'm trying to protect him. The next morning, the doctor cleared Logan for discharge with strict instructions for follow-up care. As I helped him dress in the fresh clothes my mother had brought, he asked the question I'd been dreading. Why doesn't Aunt Stephanie like me? I sat beside him on the bed, choosing my words carefully. Some people don't understand disabilities, sweetheart. They think different means less, which isn't true at all. Your Aunt Stephanie's feelings say everything about her and nothing about you. But she's family, he persisted, his brow furrowed. Family is supposed to love you no matter what. Real family does, I agreed. And you have lots of real family who love you exactly as you are. Grandma and Grandpa, Jessica, Uncle Doug, me. Aunt Stephanie has some important lessons to learn about what family really means. As we left the hospital, a text from Doug arrived. Extended family asking questions. Mom called Stephanie. It's getting messy. We need to talk. I sighed, knowing this was just the beginning of a long, painful process. The family fracture that had started years ago with subtle slights and dismissive comments had finally broken open completely, forcing everyone to choose sides. And for once, I wasn't backing down to keep the peace. Logan deserved better than that. We both did. The weeks following Logan's hospitalization were a whirlwind of medical appointments, police interviews, and family drama. Logan's physical recovery progressed well, but emotionally, he struggled with new anxieties. He had nightmares about roller coasters and developed a fear of being separated from me. What if something happens again? He asked one night after waking from a bad dream. I'll always keep you safe, I promised, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. I hadn't been able to protect him from Stephanie. To address these new fears, I arranged for Logan to see a child psychologist who specialized in trauma and children with disabilities. Dr. Kendall was wonderful with Logan, using art and play therapy to help him process his experience. Logan is showing signs of post-traumatic stress, she explained after their third session. It's not just the physical trauma of the roller coaster, but the betrayal by someone he trusted. Family betrayal can be particularly damaging to children. Meanwhile, the legal process moved forward. The district attorney's office decided to pursue charges against Stephanie for child endangerment. Detective Morrison, a calm, methodical man with a background in family crimes, kept me updated on the case's progress. We have substantial evidence, he explained during a meeting at the police station. The security footage clearly shows your sister-in-law forcing Logan onto the ride despite his distress. We have witness statements from park employees who questioned whether Logan should be on the ride. And we have the medical documentation of his condition and the prohibited activities. What kind of consequences could she face? I asked. Child endangerment can range from a misdemeanor to a felony, depending on the level of risk and intent. Given the circumstances, the deliberate disregard for medical advice, the documented risk, and the resulting hospitalization. The DA is pursuing it as a felony charge. The reality of the situation hit me. Stephanie could go to prison. While part of me felt vindicated, another part worried about the impact on Jessica and Tyler. What about her children? I asked. That's a separate matter for family services to evaluate, Detective Morrison explained. But in cases like this, they typically look at whether the parent poses an ongoing risk to their children. As if reading my thoughts, he added, Ms. Wilson, pressing charges doesn't make you responsible for what happens to your sister-in-law or her children. She made her choices. 2 days later, I received a call from Doug. Stephanie's been formally charged, he said, his voice hollow. Felony child endangerment. I know, I replied. Detective Morrison told me. A long pause followed before Doug spoke again. I've filed for legal separation, Amber. I just can't, after seeing that security footage, after hearing what she said to Logan. I don't recognize the woman I married. How are Jessica and Tyler taking it? Jessica understands more than Tyler. She's actually asked to stay with you for a while, if that's okay. She wants to help with Logan. The request surprised me. Of course she can stay with us. But what about school? It's only a 15-minute drive from your place. I can drop her off on my way to work. After some discussion of logistics, I agreed. Jessica arrived that weekend with a duffel bag and her school backpack, her expression a mix of relief and guilt. "Are you sure this is okay?" she asked as I showed her to the guest room. "I just can't be around Mom right now." "It's more than okay," I assured her. "Logan will be thrilled to have you here." And he was. Having Jessica around seemed to ease some of Logan's anxiety. They fell into an easy routine of homework, video games, and Jessica helping Logan with his physical therapy exercises. One evening, I overheard them talking in Logan's room. "Does it hurt?" Jessica asked. "The cerebral palsy, I mean." "Sometimes," Logan replied matter-of-factly. "Mostly when my muscles get too tight. But the stretches help." "I'm really sorry about what Mom did," Jessica said, her voice small. "It wasn't your fault," Logan assured her. "You called Mom for help. You're like my superhero sidekick." Their resilience in the face of adult mistakes brought tears to my eyes. The preliminary hearing for Stephanie's case was scheduled for early October. As the date approached, the pressure from extended family intensified. My aunt called, insisting I drop the charges for the sake of family harmony. My cousin sent long texts about forgiveness and second chances. Even my mother, while supportive of my decision, gently asked if there was any other way to resolve this. "I'm not doing this out of revenge," I explained repeatedly. "This is about accountability and protecting Logan." The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully in a conservative blue dress and low heels. My parents had offered to stay with Logan, who was still struggling with anxiety in public places. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble floors and echoing hallways. Doug was already there, sitting stiffly on a bench outside the courtroom. He stood when he saw me. "She's inside with her lawyer," he said by way of greeting. "They're trying to get a plea deal." We entered the courtroom together, but sat on opposite sides of the aisle, a physical manifestation of our family's division. Stephanie sat at the defense table, wearing a demure beige dress that contrasted sharply with her usual bold fashion choices. She didn't turn around. The proceedings were formal and quick. The charges were read. Stephanie pleaded not guilty. Bail conditions were continued. A trial date was set. As we filed out of the courtroom, Stephanie finally approached me, her lawyer hovering nervously beside her. "Amber, please," she began, her voice pitched low. "This has gone far enough. I made a mistake. I've learned my lesson. Think about what this is doing to the family." "I am thinking about family," I replied steadily. "I'm thinking about my son, who trusted his aunt and was betrayed in the most dangerous way possible." "It was a roller coaster, not a murder attempt," she hissed, her carefully constructed remorse slipping. "You're blowing this completely out of proportion." "Your Honor," her lawyer interjected quickly, leading her away. "We should go." Outside the courthouse, reporters from the local news waited. Child endangerment cases didn't usually attract media attention, but the dramatic circumstances, the amusement park setting, the disabled child, the family betrayal, had caught their interest. I declined to comment, hurrying to my car, but not before hearing Stephanie's lawyer give a statement about a family misunderstanding blown out of proportion and a loving aunt who made a regrettable error in judgment. The story ran on the evening news and spread quickly through our community. To my surprise, the response was overwhelmingly supportive of Logan and me. My inbox filled with messages from other parents of disabled children, sharing similar stories of family members who didn't respect medical boundaries. A local disability advocacy group, Accessible Futures, reached out to offer support. Their director, Marcus Hamilton, invited us to one of their family events. "It's important for Logan to see he's not alone," Marcus explained when I called to thank him. "And frankly, Ms. Wilson, it's important for you too. Advocating for your child against family pressure is incredibly isolating." He was right. Despite the support from my parents and Doug's slow steps toward accountability, I felt profoundly alone in my stand against Stephanie. Connecting with other families facing similar challenges provided a lifeline I hadn't realized I needed. 2 weeks after the hearing, Stephanie's lawyer contacted the DA with a plea offer. She would plead guilty to a reduced charge of misdemeanor child endangerment in exchange for probation, community service, and mandatory education about disabilities. "It's a reasonable offer," Detective Morrison told me. "She has no prior record, and while her actions were definitely criminal, most first-time offenders in similar situations don't serve jail time." After discussing it with Logan's therapist and my parents, I agreed not to oppose the plea deal, with one condition: a restraining order keeping Stephanie away from Logan. The judge accepted the agreement, sentencing Stephanie to 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service with disabled children, and mandatory participation in disability awareness education. He also granted the restraining order, prohibiting Stephanie from coming within 100 yards of Logan or contacting him in any way. As we left the courtroom after sentencing, Doug approached me. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for agreeing to the plea deal." "I didn't do it for Stephanie," I clarified. "I did it because a trial would be hard on Logan. And on Jessica and Tyler." He nodded. "I know. But thank you anyway." He hesitated, then added, "I filed for divorce, Amber. And I'm seeking full custody of the kids." The news stunned me. Despite the separation, I had assumed Doug and Stephanie would eventually reconcile. "Are you sure that's what you want?" "It's what needs to happen," he said firmly. I failed Logan by not seeing what was happening. I won't fail my own children the same way. For the first time since this ordeal began, I felt a glimmer of hope for our fractured family. Not hope for a return to how things were. That was impossible, but for something new, built on truth and accountability rather than denial and appeasement. That Sunday, we held a small birthday celebration for Logan at my parents' house. It was the first family gathering since the incident, and the absence of Stephanie hung in the air like a ghost. But there were also moments of genuine joy: Logan blowing out his candles, Jessica helping him open presents, Tyler cautiously rejoining the cousin relationship that had been strained by his mother's actions. As I watched Logan laugh at something Doug said, I realized we were witnessing the first fragile steps toward a new kind of family, one defined not by unconditional acceptance of harmful behavior, but by the harder, more meaningful work of honest reckoning and genuine change. 6 months after the roller coaster incident, as we'd come to call it in therapy, Logan sat in Dr. Kendall's office, proudly showing her a medal he'd won in an adaptive swimming competition. "I was scared of the water at first," he explained, "but then I remembered what we talked about, feeling the fear but doing it anyway if it's safe." Dr. Kendall smiled. "That's exactly right, Logan. There's a big difference between facing fears that help you grow and being forced into genuinely dangerous situations." Logan's progress in therapy had been remarkable. The nightmares had gradually subsided, and while he still had moments of anxiety, he was developing healthy coping mechanisms. His resilience continued to amaze me. My own journey had taken unexpected turns. What began as a desperate fight to protect my son had evolved into a broader advocacy role. With support from Accessible Futures, I started a support group for parents of disabled children navigating family conflicts. Sharing our story, with Logan's permission, opened doors for others to speak about the ableism they encountered in their own families. "You've given us a language for something we've experienced but couldn't name," one mother told me after a meeting. "The way family members undermine us, question our parenting, ignore medical advice, it's not just annoying, it's dangerous." Doug had followed through on his divorce filing and, after a tense legal battle, gained primary custody of Jessica and Tyler. Stephanie had visitation rights, but was required to complete her disability education program first. She moved to a neighboring town, supposedly for a fresh start, though local gossip suggested she'd been increasingly ostracized after the case became public. Jessica continued to spend significant time at our house, often bringing Tyler for weekend visits. The cousins rebuilt their relationship, with Tyler gradually understanding more about Logan's condition and how to be a supportive cousin. "Do you think Mom will ever change?" Jessica asked me one evening as we prepared dinner. "Really change, I mean." "I hope so," I answered honestly. People can change when they're willing to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves. The education program is a start, but real change has to come from within. Jessica nodded thoughtfully. "I want to study special education in college," she confided. "Because of Logan." "Is that weird?" "Not weird at all," I assured her. Some of the best advocates for disabled people became involved because of personal connections. Logan's physical health had stabilized after some adjustments to his medication and therapy regimen. The autonomic dysreflexia episode hadn't caused permanent damage, but his neurologist recommended more frequent checkups to monitor his condition. "You've become quite the expert on cerebral palsy," Dr. Martinez remarked during one appointment. "Have you considered sharing your knowledge more formally?" That conversation led to an opportunity one never expected: guest lecturing at the local community college's nursing program about parenting a child with disabilities. Standing before a classroom of future healthcare providers, sharing our experiences and answering questions, felt like turning our painful journey into something constructive. My relationship with Doug slowly mended as he committed to understanding Logan's needs and becoming a true ally. He attended medical appointments, asked thoughtful questions, and even joined a support group for family members of disabled individuals. "I should have done this years ago," he admitted after one particularly emotional group session. "I always thought I was being supportive, but I was actually enabling Stephanie's behavior by minimizing it." 3 months after the court case concluded, Stephanie requested a meeting with me. Her probation officer and therapist would be present, she explained in her formal email. After consulting with Logan's therapist and my own support network, I cautiously agreed. We met at a neutral counseling center, the atmosphere tense despite the calming decor. Stephanie looked different, subdued, less perfectly put together than I remembered. "Thank you for coming," she began stiffly. My therapist suggested this as part of my accountability process. What followed was a carefully prepared statement acknowledging her actions and their impact. She spoke about her disability education classes and how they had challenged her preconceptions. It was textbook apology language, delivered with unclear sincerity. "I'd like to apologize to Logan directly," she concluded. "With proper supervision, of course." The request surprised me. "I'll need to discuss that with his therapist," I said cautiously. And it would entirely be Logan's choice. To my even greater surprise, Logan wanted to meet with her. "I have things I need to say to her," he explained with a maturity that caught me off guard. "Dr. Kendall says it might help me move on." The meeting was arranged with meticulous care, Logan's therapist present, clear time limits established, an exit strategy in place if Logan became uncomfortable. We met in Dr. Kendall's office, a space where Logan felt safe. Stephanie entered tentatively, her confident stride noticeably absent. "Hello, Logan," she said softly. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Logan sat very straight in his chair, his braces visible beneath his shorts. "Hi, Aunt Stephanie. I wanted to tell you how sorry I am for what happened at Adventure Kingdom," she began. "I was wrong to make you go on that ride. I was wrong not to listen when you said no." Logan considered this. "You called me dramatic," he said. "And a baby." To her credit, Stephanie didn't deny it. "I did. That was cruel and untrue. You knew your body's limits better than I did, and I should have respected that." "Why did you do it?" Logan asked, the question we'd all been wondering. Stephanie looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I've been thinking about that a lot in therapy. I think I wanted to prove that I knew better than your mom. That my way of parenting was right, and hers was wrong." She paused. "It was about me, not you. And that was very wrong." Logan nodded slowly. I don't think I want to go places with you anymore, he said honestly. Maybe not ever. I understand, Stephanie replied, her voice catching. I broke your trust. That's not something easily fixed. But Logan continued, I don't want you to go to jail or be sad forever. I just want you to learn about disabilities so you don't hurt other kids like me. His compassion brought tears to my eyes. Even after everything, Logan's natural empathy remained intact. As we navigated this new family landscape, holidays and celebrations required careful planning. Thanksgiving was split between households, Christmas involved precisely scheduled visits, and birthday parties became exercises in diplomatic timing. Despite the complications, there were moments of genuine connection. During Logan's 13th birthday party, my father raised a toast to Logan, who's taught us all what real courage looks like, and to Amber, who showed us what it means to truly protect your child. The summer after the incident, I met Daniel, a landscape architect who designed accessible outdoor spaces. We connected at a fundraiser for Accessible Futures, bonding over coffee and conversation that flowed easily. When I cautiously mentioned Logan's disability, his response was refreshingly straightforward. My nephew has Down syndrome, he shared. My sister has taught me a lot about being an ally instead of just a sympathetic bystander. Our relationship developed slowly, with careful introductions to Logan and thoughtful discussions about boundaries and expectations. When Daniel finally asked if he could take us both to dinner, Logan's approval was enthusiastic. He doesn't talk to me like I'm a little kid, Logan observed after our first outing together. And he waited while I got in the car myself instead of trying to help without asking. It was such a simple thing, basic respect for Logan's autonomy, yet it highlighted how rare that respect had been in our past relationships. On a warm Saturday in April, nearly a year after the incident, our extended family gathered for a picnic at an accessible park. Stephanie wasn't present. The restraining order remained in effect, but Doug brought Jessica and Tyler. My parents came, along with Daniel, who had become a steady presence in our lives. As the adults prepared food and the children played an adapted version of Frisbee that accommodated Logan's mobility, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed. The family we had now wasn't the one I'd imagined. It was smaller in some ways, the ties reconfigured by painful truths and necessary boundaries. But it was also stronger where it mattered most, in honesty, in respect, in genuine acceptance of Logan exactly as he was. Penny for your thoughts, my mother said, sitting beside me on the accessible bench. I was just thinking about family, I replied. How it's not always what we expect. She followed my gaze to where Logan was laughing with Jessica, his movements different, but his joy identical to that of any other 13-year-old. The strongest families aren't the ones that never have conflict, she observed. They're the ones that face hard truths and grow from them. That evening, as Logan and I drove home, he asked a question that had clearly been on his mind. Mom, do you think we'll ever forgive Aunt Stephanie? Like, completely. I considered my answer carefully. Forgiveness is complicated, Logan. It doesn't mean forgetting what happened or removing necessary boundaries. It might mean finding peace with the past without letting it control our future. He nodded thoughtfully. I think I'm not ready yet, but maybe someday. Is that okay? That's more than okay, I assured him. You get to decide your own journey with this. There's no right timeline for healing. As we pulled into our driveway, Logan said, I'm glad you called the police that day. Even though it was hard. So am I replied. Sometimes the hardest choices are the most important ones. That night, looking through old photos for a school project, Logan paused at a picture taken before the incident, our whole family together at a reunion, smiles fixed, tensions hidden beneath the surface. We look happy here, he observed, but we weren't really, were we? Parts were real, I said. The love between you and Jessica. My love for you. Grandma and Grandpa's love for all of us. But no, some of those smiles were covering up problems we weren't facing. He studied the photo a moment longer, then selected a different one, taken at his recent birthday, showing our smaller but more genuine circle. I like this one better, he decided. It's more real. As I helped him arrange the photos, I reflected on the journey we'd taken. From that terrifying phone call from Jessica to the hospital room, from courtrooms to therapy sessions, from fractured family to reconstructed connections, each step had been painful but necessary. The road ahead would still have challenges. Logan would face new obstacles as he grew older. Our family would continue to navigate complex dynamics. But we would face it all with hard-won wisdom and authentic relationships built on respect rather than obligation. The lesson I hoped Logan would carry forward wasn't that family always gets it right, but that true love means standing firm in defense of what matters, even especially when it's difficult. That sometimes protection means drawing hard lines. That his voice and his needs are valid and important. And perhaps most importantly, that the family you choose, the people who truly see and respect you, can be stronger than the family you're born into. Thank you so much for staying with us through this difficult story. If you've ever had to make a hard choice to protect someone you love, please share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might need to hear that standing up for the vulnerable is always the right choice, even when it comes at a personal cost. Remember, your support helps stories like ours reach those who need them most.